Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Jarod, I almost put on a black tank top, both as in mourning and as a fuck you to America. But my wife sometimes will put on, like on Friday night or Saturday night. Well, normally Saturday night we'll have some cocktails at some point. We're back home. We might put on YouTube, play some music from the 80s or whatever. Mary J, we put on fun stuff. But the YouTube channel on my TV will have recent things that I've looked at.
Correct.
And or stuff that's
And
if she saw me wearing a fucking tank top, trouble. So as much as I'm fucking pissed off and embarrassed for the country, I love my wife too much to cause myself any, and my life. I love my life too much to cause any problems. So I spared you the problem of that.
I thought you were going to say because it's so hot today. That's why I want to put on a tank top.
I mean, it's whatever. What is it? 80 degrees, whatever. My pool is 82. Well, okay. I have a heater on, so okay. I'm not even sure I need the heater. I don't think it comes on. It's warm. Okay. It's not so bad.
Not so bad.
Hurricanes aren't happening, so as long as we're not having hurricanes.
That's a win. You were traveling recently. You went to some NBA games. A couple different arenas to check out some stuff.
No, I just went to Dallas.
Okay, Dallas.
Yeah.
But you were in Orlando, but that's not. I mean, you go to Orlando relatively regularly.
That's easy. Yeah, it's an easy drive.
But how have you generally felt about the first 4 weeks of this, or 3 weeks? This is we're in week 4 now. 3 weeks of games. I feel like they've been pretty good start to the season.
Okay, we have a lot of talented players.
Sure do.
Some guys have been disappointing. Some teams have been disappointing. The opposite is also true. I think I love our game.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we have some coaches, and we're going to get to this today, who are starting to recognize that these guys aren't Terminators. That they actually can be terminated. From in terms of physically playing at their best level. And so I like that we have some coaches who recognize our players are human, and just super impressed with the skill,
man.
Good. The professionalism of most of our guys, the joy that which they play with is, I watched a lot of games, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I like watching how benches react.
Mm-hmm.
You've got I can really categorize 2 kinds of bench warmers. There's the kind that, thank you for paying me $2 million a year just to sit on the bench and cheer. Markieff Morris, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he really genuinely cares about his team. How would I possibly know that? I know that he acts like he cares on the bench. Great. And then you have the guy that is dying to play more, but still knows, I've got to be a good teammate.
Yep.
I really like that. The other guys are different, but they normally stand out when you're not caring about the guys you're playing with. It's nice to see that joy. And I don't know that we've got but a few surprises, and it's early. We know. Well, that's what we know.
Yes.
With all the injuries, which we'll get to, who fucking knows what April's going to look like right now? I don't, and I know more than most. And
who knows what December's going to look like? Forget about April.
Yeah, right.
And that's, it's sad that we often bring this up. And, look, fans of True Hoop know that we don't bring up injuries just because we want to harp and be a point your finger, I told you so. We love the game and want these players to play as long and as well as they possibly can throughout their careers. But what we're seeing is that this is just not, it's not sustainable what we're seeing right now. And we've been looking at injuries and playing time and some different things over at True Hoop. And so many of the league's most popular stars, David, are out, right? So obviously Embiid and Kawhi already know they started the season hurt, right? Chet Holmgren suffered a really rough injury over the weekend, fracturing a bone in his hip. He's going to be out till sometime next year, the next calendar year, not next season, next calendar year. My guess is it's 8 to 12 weeks before they give a protocol for him to come back. So all-star break-ish, maybe, who knows, a while.
Circle that name. Let's circle. Yep. I want to circle back to Chet after it's gone.
No problem. Tyrese Maxey's out. John Morant's out. Kevin Durant's out. Anthony Davis is out. Jimmy Butler's out. Zion Williamson's out. And those are just top-line, super popular players.
Isn't Paul George out again?
Paul George is also out.
He just got back, and now he's back the other way.
Correct. And again, those are just top-line, very popular players. I haven't even gotten to regular starters, deep bench. This schedule and this season and the way it's done is not, as David said, these guys aren't Terminators. They are fallible and can break, and they are breaking. And I think some coaches, David, are starting to realize that we can't. If our goal is to win, we can't keep doing this shit.
If our goal is to win in the playoffs,
yes,
we have to deliver a healthy team to the playoffs. So let's real quick on Chet, and then I want to talk about this issue from a macro point of view. So he was drafted 3 drafts ago. He didn't play at all his first year due to a fracture. He had a terrific second season, which was his rookie season, in a real sense. And now after 10 games, he's out again for, we don't know how long, maybe half the season. In other words, he might miss 30 games. Yeah. I've done the math. Yeah. I don't think anyone really knows.
A long time.
Right. So, well, if you play an average of 4 games a week, and we're looking at 10 weeks minimum, there's 40 games right there.
Yep.
So he's going to miss half the season. This was the concern we had with his body, not soft tissue issue.
No. Just fell on his hip.
Right. So, I saw the play live on TV, and I knew I texted you guys right away. Yep. Like, this looked like a broken bone to me, kind of thing, because there wasn't a tissue issue there. It wasn't like a mangled knee. This looked like a bone bruise or a break, one or the other. So just let's keep an eye out. This is a incredibly important player for the Thunder, and he could be injury prone. We don't know because of that body, which also Wemby, we'll talk about Wemby later, built similarly. The bigger issue, as I told you guys this morning, as someone who has to watch the game from the critical eye that I do, if I have a player, and I told you guys the details this morning, who just is, for one moment in time, is guarding an elite shooter, and here comes the ball in transition offense, and that player just is one step below where he should be. Here comes a little pin down or a screen across action for that shooter to curl for the 28-foot three. And if the player that I'm helping is one step away from where he should be at the moment, the millisecond the action begins, he's not going to have time to recover, to apply enough pressure coming around the screen on the shooter with a long arm contest, high hand contest, trailing, which means even if he was there, the guy guarding the big has to be up point of touch to be able to make a play, potentially inhibit that shot or even get him not to shoot it. And if you're late, it doesn't mean he'll make the shot. It just, chances are better that he'll make it. He's green lighted to shoot it. So this is from 20. So you've already raced back. You have to race back. You can't jog back because if that guy runs and you're jogging, you're fucked. If he races and you're jogging, it's a layup. So you've got to race back, and you've got to stay up to touch as much as possible for these kinds of players. And it's not just the guy guarding the shooter. It's the guy guarding the screener. This is the name of the squeezing art. You had to guard Green and Looney or Green and Bogut when they weren't shooting threes because of the way Curry and Clay could shoot coming off those screens. So, Jarod, what I contend is this didn't exist. It just didn't exist until recent times. The speed of the game has gotten faster, not slower. We have all talked about the physicality of the game has increased, which it has. One of many examples is where our referees are calling fouls late because they're waiting to see if the ball goes in.
Waiting to see the outcome of the play.
I can send you 15 every night, 15 different plays where it's a delayed call. I know for a fact that sometimes they just let that call go. It's so late that they end up just not wanting to call. It's so obvious that they're waiting. And maybe the game's 14-point game with 5 to play, whatever, and I'm not going to bother with it, which means players are more inspired or unleashed to foul more. So more running, more racing, more urgency, more intensity during the course of the 24-second possession, instead of just kind of running and then not worrying about the first 15 seconds of the clock because no one's going to shoot it. They're going to move the ball around side to side, second side, third side action, whatever. Everyone's weaponized all the time. Big men rebound and run all the time with the ball in their hands. All of this going on with increased physicality. And as someone who gets a chance to hug a lot of players, these men are pieces of fucking iron.
They are.
And so no surprise that we're dealing with the same thing over and over. And I don't know when the NBA is going to realize, I literally don't know when they're going to realize, we are facing an epidemic of problems where of our top 45 players, 37 are missing at least 1 week. What is that going to do? And we don't do a great job, although some coaches do, of playing more guys. So we realize, this backup he's exciting to watch too. We don't have enough of that around the league.
Right.
So this is we're at a point of to me a scary place.
Yeah.
Where the league better grow up fast. The problem is in today's American culture environment, that growing up is not happening. It's just the opposite. And we've reverted back to, oh, these guys aren't tough enough, whatever.
Nonsense.
You fucking give me a break. Yeah,
Right.
It's just nonsense. Right. Great word.
What David just broke down for everybody, is what we talk about on the show all the time. This idea that the NBA today's game is not physical and it's soft is laughable. David just gave you the reasons why. The ground and distance you have to cover because everyone is weaponized, right? The height that the big or whoever your guard and screener has to come out of didn't exist in the 1980s and 90s because no one shot from back there. That wasn't a thing.
Not even the 90s. I started my business in 2003. And I remember thinking Udonis had such a tough time as a power forward, because initially he was a power forward in the league, with all the actions he had to defend as a power forward and all the power forwards that are very good. But it was all within 15 feet of space,
yep.
Except for Dirk.
Mm-hmm.
There were a few exceptions, but very few.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not at all the case anymore.
Right.
Try guarding Lauri Markkanen for a while.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Anybody.
Exactly.
Try Siakam. Like, they're all weaponized three-point shooting and at the rim, and come on.
It's just constant motion, and again, this 82-game season coming off of an international tournament year where so many guys played for their national teams, right? Like, this is problematic for the league. And look, if the league is not going to do anything about the calendar, which we know and suspect they will not, the teams that are going to manage themselves the best are the ones that have their roster of 15 guys and realize, well, what the hell is the point of having a roster of 15 guys if I don't use 12 of these guys? It's just a waste, right? They're just sitting on the bench taking up space. Might as well play them and see what I have. And so we started doing a little bit of looking at Troop, and it's early to see, who's doing what, like what's happening here. And David, what I loved about what we did over the weekend with your help was we realized there were 9 teams that have 10 players that average 12 plus minutes a game right now. And that's so big. Now, some of those teams, they're forced to because of the injuries that we mentioned, right? Some of them it's just, well, we got to play guys because we got people hurt. But there are other teams like the Golden State Warriors who are going 13 deep, right? Like the Celtics do have some injuries, but they were playing a deep rotation as well, who were just playing a bunch of guys. And to me, it's going to give them such a leg up, not just weathering the regular season, which, as David said, if you want to win in April, the point is to deliver your guys as healthy as possible. But when April comes and May and June, and you are in a tight playoff game and possessions matter so critically, you can turn to your bench and say, I know player X can give me 3 minutes and not fuck up our possessions. I feel confident in that. Whereas these coaches that don't do that, they have no idea. And so now their stars got to play 46 minutes in a playoff game. Surprise, surprise, they're hurt. Oh, we lose. Hello, Tom Thibodeau, New York Knicks.
So speaking of Tom Thibodeau, I'm gonna say something. But while I do, why don't you look up the minutes they played yesterday? Okay, they played the Pacers
Thibodeau's
yesterday.
The Knicks.
Yeah. So think about this, Jarod. When people always say, the 60s and 70s, different brand of basketball. Mm-hmm. They smoked cigarettes and they drank a lot, whatever.
Sure did.
They also didn't play all summer long. They didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't very skilled compared to these guys.
Right.
In many cases. Some were, most weren't. Some of them had to have other jobs. Turns out that was great for their bodies. Not good for their games.
Mm-hmm.
That's why these guys are 1,000 times more skilled, is because I know this. And don't think for one second that I need this for my living. I don't want to work with players in the summertime on the court. I've aged out of that. Not that I don't do it. I do. Some players insist they want to see me some here and there. I coach the coaches that do it. But in order for them to start the year playing well, they've got to put work in the summer on their handle, on their shot making, 2-foot finishes, one-hand scoops. I could go on and on. If maybe one day I'll have cameras. There's always cameras in my gym.
Yeah.
I just don't do any of the work. It's for them and their Instagram. And some of them owns, production companies because they're doing Instagram. I don't care about any of it. I'm just out of all of it. But maybe I will do it. You'll see the kind of work we put in. The stuff that's happening now, we worked on in June, July, August, September, before they went to their camp. That takes a toll. I am not arguing. I do believe in Henry and science and Dr. Elliott, and maybe there's a better way to train. I know it's something we take very, very seriously with their physio and their team, strength coaches, and whatever. I'm very proud of my players we ask them to lift weights after games, and they're not alone. So it's not just me asking for it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually learned that from Luol Deng, who told me I was so hyped up. This was while I was helping him. I can't fall asleep. And so he had a chef. So while his chef was preparing his meal post-game, he would go do his weightlifting then because he was all geeked up anyway. Then he would eat when he got home and he'd go to sleep. Instead of going to a fast food place, he'd have healthy food right there. I love that. So I have players who, I talked to a parent the other day, a mom and a dad, the last couple of weeks, who said, we don't see our son after home games when we come to our road games for an hour. If he's at home, because they'll lift at the gym if they're home. If they're on the road, it's different. I think that's great. You have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It has a cost too, though. And so I don't know what the answer is. I know these aren't the answers.
Correct.
So in a game that the Knicks lost
mm-hmm.
to a very beaten up Pacers team,
sure did,
minus second and third string center, minus starting 2-guard, minus starting 3-man.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Knicks starting lineup minutes.
Well, I'll give you that in a minute. Here, listen to this. They played 6 players more than 10 minutes. The Knicks did 6.
Yeah.
Here are the minutes for their starters. Bridges, 42. Anunoby, 36. Towns, 39. Brunson, 41. Hart, 43. McBride off the bench played 29. The next closest guy, Jarod, played 9 minutes.
Yeah.
In a game they lost by 11, by the way, and got crushed in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, in the fourth quarter. Do you have the fourth quarter numbers?
40-27.
Yeah, exactly. Give up 40. I don't remember the 27. I remember the 40.
What are we doing?
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, New York, I don't know what to tell you other than I don't expect to see you in June. And maybe I otherwise might. I don't know. But if you could short a player's fantasy stats, I'd be shorting some Knicks dudes. I'm just telling you. Like they're just running him. He's running him right into the ground as expected.
Again, it's not about right now, as we're saying. It's the dividends, the toll this takes later in the year. I said this on a show the other day, David, on a New York Post hit. We always talk about how in the postseason, defense gets tougher, and all that's true, right? Because you're not playing any shitty teams. Everybody in the playoffs is good, whatever. But a large reason why player percentages go down and all this stuff is because they're also exhausted. That's also the reason they're not playing as well.
Yeah, of course. Teams are scouting you better, whatever. But you're right. Of course, you're right. A few months ago, maybe not a few months ago, a few weeks ago, the start of the season, maybe 10 days in the season. It might have been even just like 10 days ago. I don't remember anymore. It's been a bad couple weeks for me, as you can, for all of us, actually. Yeah. The other half the country just doesn't realize how fucked up they are. So I sent a video of a player that I spent some time with in the summertime, a big wing, and I sent video of the June work with the ball,
mm-hmm.
and you would have thought it was from 10 years ago. It's sharpness and crispness and movement and fluidity and explosiveness all contained. You don't see it anymore, and we're in November. Yeah. You don't see it. He plays a lot of minutes, and he's worn out. Yeah, he still tries. It's just all relative because everyone else is slow too. It's like you grow. I never understood this, Jarod. Football teams that are like Penn State when they were slower would play the athletic SEC teams,
mm-hmm.
And they would let their grass grow.
Mm-hmm.
And it never made sense to me.
Slow down the runners.
Right. Well, but this slows them too.
Correct.
But I realized much later in life, because I'm not very smart, we're just fucking up their timing. Right? The faster guys can't run as fast as they normally do, and that fucks with your brain chemistry and your timing.
Yep.
Coordination. The slow guys aren't depending on that anyway.
Nope.
we almost like are building in mud or tall grass on the court with what we do. And I'm telling you, if you think of all the amazing things we see now,
mm-hmm.
imagine what it might be like if they play 2 less games a week.
Oh my God.
Off every other day and just let the body recover.
Oh, David.
Wheels what we have then.
Oh my. The basketball will be such higher quality.
Or, I don't want to not say it, we just played other guys more.
Yeah.
Just play other guys more.
Yeah.
Yep. So these guys play a lot less.
And listen,
or not at all in some games.
I don't. And Kerr kind of alluded to this because he's, one of the coaches that's, as I said, mentions going right now 13 deep. And he actually said, when we level off into more of a normal regular season game, it's kind of like hedging his bets. Like, I don't know how long we're going to keep doing this, but I'm like, but it's working, my guy. I know it's early. We only played 10 games, but keep doing it because again, you never know who you have. You have a diamond in the rough sitting there that, wow, I can look in a playoff game. if you don't have to play Steph Curry 40 minutes, that's a good thing, right? You don't, right? So that when the game gets tight and you're like, you know what? Now he's got to go 8 straight, 9 straight minutes. We can and not worry, because in those 4 minutes he sat to start the quarter, we were fine because we've been playing on our bench all year. They know exactly what to do. They kept level. But how are you going to know that if you don't see it happen day to day through the course of the regular season? David says this all the time. Oxygen, man. These guys got to see what they're doing wrong, fuck up, learn, do it again, fuck up again, keep learning. But the coaches have such low tolerance for the mistakes and the fucking up. And it's like,
yeah, I'm well known for saying to my young player, I never want to steal money from anybody. Until you're playing, it's going to seem like I'm stealing some money. Because how much can I really help you? I can help your off season. I can make sure you're doing certain things in season when you're not playing, but I can't really problem solve from the bench. Well, neither can you as a player. How do I know what to get better if I'm not failing? Yeah, it's a disturbing thing, but the smarter teams, they know what they're doing.
They are, yeah.
And they get a big advantage come springtime.
I think so, and it's paying off well for them right now. Speaking of one of those teams, the Warriors, David, we talked about last week that this road trip they had coming up that they just finished and they went 4-1 was going to be a real test to see where they are. Now, we always say you never apologize for any wins in this league. Nope. You beat who you beat, and it is what it is. So they played the Rockets, the Wizards, the Celtics, the Cavs, and the Thunder. Now, the Thunder were without Chet Holmgren, as we mentioned, because he got hurt for like 5 minutes
for most of the game,
and he was gone. The Boston Celtics were without Jaylen Brown, and the Celtics did make a comeback in that game, but the Warriors pushed ahead in the fourth. And the game that they played, the best team that was fully healthy, the Cavs drubbed them by like 30 points or whatever.
It could have been 65.
Right.
Easy.
Easy. They took their foot off the gas. So I don't know if
they beat Houston.
And they beat Houston, and they beat the Wizards.
In a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we know anything definitively about this Warriors team, but we do know that the defensive energy, that looks very real, and something that, that old saying, right, in all sports, that defense travels. That part seems to be, okay, if they're all going to fly around to the ball and play that well and play that maniacal style, which, by the way, hint, hint, you can when you go 13 deep, this might be a good thing for them, David.
Well, I think a lesser team doesn't go 4-1 no matter who is missing on the other team. Plenty of teams have blown games with big leads and not big leads against injured teams because the other guys are good too, which is the point we're making all the time. A lot of these guys can play. But the Warriors, took care of business. I mean, they drilled the Thunder. And I thought Kerr fucked up when Chet went down. I thought, well, they're playing Ousmane Dieng, who's the biggest guy, and he's not a big guy. But he's also just okay. He's not very good yet. And he's got talent. I thought Kerr could have played his bigs other than just Draymond and flattened the Thunder on the glass. And it turns out he didn't need to. He didn't play Trace Jackson, Dave Must. He didn't play Looney at all. He played Draymond some, and they blew him out anyway. I'm not a believer. I want to be a believer in the Warriors. I'm not there. But I am very excited to see the way they're defending. They're top 3 in defense. They're swarming. They're protecting the paint. They've had, I think, one game recently. They only had like 8 turnovers, which is
good for them.
Yeah. They've got a lot of guys playing, and I still think they can grow some. I don't think they have the biggest upside, but they also, as one Warriors player told me, we have an identity again. That's defense. They're really rallying around playing defense. The Cleveland game is going to be good for them, not just in these games, but going forward. Like, we have so far to go. Yep. We know what it looks like when we're rolling, and we know we're not rolling when you can. That Warriors team would have lose to Cleveland by that before.
Right.
They've got some growing to do. Curry looks amazing still. Yeah, it's good for the league. It's good for the rest of the league to see a team that understands how to take advantage of their talents. Everyone is. I mean, Brandon Podziemski, I think he shoots a little too much, but he plays hard as hell. You get away with it if you play really hard. And they're the West right now is pretty damn open. Denver is fallible. OKC super fallible right now.
Yeah.
The Lakers fallible with AD being out with his eye injury.
Phoenix fallible right now with Durant out with the calf strain.
Correct. Yeah. It'll be a nice race though, I think.
No.
Not as many teams in the East are as threatening as the West.
Yeah, these teams are playing well. And I'll mention the Warriors too. Andrew Wiggins also playing well this season, and it's nice to see You know, he had a rough couple of years. Had some stuff
Yeah.
going on in his personal life with his father passing away, and you know, so I think you know he's seemingly righted his ship a little bit, and that's huge for them, right? Because if he plays like how he played the year they won the title in 2022, that's huge upside for them with everything they got going on over there. So good to see on the Warriors. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David. One of the teams that, I mean, I guess yes. For sure. Let's call them a surprise because I don't know that anybody thought they would be 10-0 at this point of the season.
11-0.
11-0. But they're
right.
The 10 or 11. They're undefeated is the point. They have not lost.
Hey, 10-11 is a big deal, Jarod. I'm going to tell 11. I'm going to tell freaking 11-0.
You're going to tell Kenny I docked him a win. They are playing well. Darius Garland is energized. Donovan Mitchell, of course, we know is great. He's Kenny Atkinson, the new head coach, has given Evan Mobley some injection of confidence. He's really taking his game up. Jarod Allen playing really good defense. We know how elite Donovan Mitchell is. I mean, look, they're already not running away with anything, but I mean, start jumping out to an 11-0 start to your season has got to be good vibes around Cleveland. And again, this is largely the same team they were last year with the JB. And so this isn't about piling on JB and saying that he stinks, but what is the secret? What's going on that wasn't happening last year with the Cleveland Cavaliers so far this year?
Okay, so first of all, tonight they play at the Bulls, losable game.
Sure.
But you expect them to win, but losable. Then at Philly, losable game, but you expect them to win. Then the Bulls again at home. This is meaning Cleveland.
Another
winnable,
win.
Likely winnable. Then Charlotte at home. That could be 15-0 before they play at Boston. And then it's New Orleans, Toronto, Atlanta, Boston again. And then Washington, Denver, Charlotte, Miami, Milwaukee, Philly, Utah, Denver. Like, there's like 4 tough games.
David, they may not lose 6 games before the new year.
Right, exactly. So, listen, nothing against Bickerstaff at all, but they're playing faster. I think they're number 1 in points off turnovers. Their pace is up significantly so, and their fast break numbers are up as well. Their bench unit's doing great. The biggest thing I noticed is their shooting. I think they're the best shooting team. So you may think, well, that's not going to hold up. Well, maybe it will. They're not shooting 64% from three. It's like 40% or 42, maybe 42.2%. Yeah, they got a lot of good shooters. Yeah, Coro's shooting great. They're not totally reliant on their three because of these fast break points and points off turnovers and guys like Donovan and Jarod and Evan. Evan's taking a nice step forward, which we all kind of hoped. He's at 18 a game now, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to 20 at some point by next year. Yeah, LeVert's playing really well, which is a big deal. Donovan can play better even. I don't think they're legit. And Kenny's got some experience now with what the Warriors went through. The vibes were bad in Cleveland. I talked to a player on the team last year. They were done with Bickerstaff. For whatever reason, they were done with them. There's a new guy there, and they seem to like him a lot. And the evidence is right there that they do, and they're playing for him.
And you mentioned LeVert, and it's not to be understated that LeVert had his best success in the league playing under Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn.
Yeah, right.
And as did Jarod Allen. So with him back with those two being familiar with him, that elevates their games as well, right? And LeVert, a great off-the-bench guy, right? Someone who, if he's playing as well as he can play, that's someone who could and should be in the running for a 6th man of the year type player, right? Like he's that talented. And so, look, signs are looking good in Cleveland, right? And of course, obviously, when you're winning, everything's coming to work's much nicer. Everybody's smiling, like it's it's wonderful. But as we always say, like, well, let's see how we deal with success, and as when we get to that rough stretch where you maybe lose a game or two, like, okay, how are the vibes now? How is it getting on the plane and coming to work? We'll see, right? It's like David always says, right? Get off the roller coaster and get on the merry-go-round, man. You got a long way to go.
I think Kenny Atkinson is a good merry-go-round driver. I think that his Brooklyn team showed that. To your point, I think LeVert is probably telling his other guys, this guy's good. We're going to be fine. Let's just keep trusting what we're doing and play for each other and all that. I don't think they'll fall off. They are defending. I think Darius defending.
Yeah.
It matters. It definitely matters. And they have, I'm not sure how much flexibility they have to add a player or two, but excuse me. I could see them trying to get involved in something because they legit have a chance. If the only real team right now is Boston, they just got to find a way to beat Boston.
There's a way, David. You mentioned the Warriors before the break and how they're defending. We're talking about Cleveland and how they're defending. That so many times coaches talk about this is a sign of a team's togetherness, right? When a team is so gelling and on a string together defensively and willing to sell out for the other one because they know the other person's gotten their back, that presents a team that is trust each other, right? And has a bond and a connection. And God, that's so crucial to winning in this league.
I think most players are predisposed to be very competitive, more so than the average human being or even the average athlete. And I think that competitiveness gets distracted by petty things commonly, or more serious things, health of a family member like Andrew Wiggins had with his dad, or ego issues on the court. I'm not playing enough. I'm not touching the ball enough. I'm not getting the love I'm supposed to get. That gets in the way of their natural inclination to really compete. So when things are going well, I think you start getting the natural competitive juices flowing. And if you watch a 48-minute game, you can see the idea they want it more. Well, it's more complicated than that. But ultimately, yeah, a team is just more desperate, playing with more urgency. That's why the playoffs are so great. But when we see a game, and you'll hear announcers say sometimes, this has a playoff feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
You could just see these players are doing whatever they can to freaking win this game, diving on the floor and risking injury to themselves, whatever. I like seeing players who initially aren't doing that, and then it catches. They play a lot of games, and all of a sudden you just see them taking that extra step, metaphorically speaking, and then the games get better when that happens.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful to watch. So shout out to the Cavs. David, a team that you and I were worried about since last year, over the summer, going into the season, with the Denver Nuggets. A player we were not worried about was Nikola Jokic. We're like, well, I trust him, and we know he's going to be fine. We're worried about everybody else. Well, right now, through 10, 11 games, doesn't seem to really matter what everybody else is doing because he is playing like the world's best player again. David, he was sublime last night in that game against the Dallas Mavericks. 37, 18, and 15. Just ridiculous numbers. This 5-year stretch we're seeing from him is, when you take away any of the greats and you look at like their best 5-year stretch, like this is among some of the greatest basketball we've ever seen. Like it's already top tier. And I just look, all of our worries about the team are still there, but because basketball is still a 5-on-5 sport and one person still has an outsized impact, may not matter. Like if he's going to play like this, he may drag him to 50 whatever wins just because he's so fucking good.
He is trending towards being in the top 5 all-time conversation.
I know. Oh, let me ask you right now. Is he right now already, with what he's accomplished, is he better than Tim Duncan already right now?
No.
Okay, but close though. You had to think, right? You're
really,
like, shit.
Yeah, no. It's like he's in that world.
Yeah.
They're obviously very different too.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
But what Duncan could do defensively was really extraordinary.
Massive.
Yeah. But as an offensive force, yes,
of course, yes.
He's the best water polo player ever to play basketball in the NBA. It's just unbelievable. He can redirect with one arm, and it's so amazing. I've had the joy in the last few weeks of breaking his game down for players of mine, and I'm not kidding when I tell you this. I try to limit 3-4 clips most of the time per player I'm trying to prepare for. I could do 10 for him at the drop of a hat because 5 or 6 are about when he has the ball and scoring, and the other 5 and 6 are of when he has the ball and isn't scoring because he's so dangerous as a passer. And I have no idea if Mike Malone can coach or not because with that dude, like Sam Mitchell win 50 games. I'm just saying, he's extraordinary. He's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I love him. I love his personality on the court. Christian Brown's playing really well for them, shooting it really well. I'm not sure he could play for a lot of teams, but next to Jokic, he's great. And Jamal Murray is not, which is what we've talked about. He's down. He's third lowest points per game since his third year.
Yep.
Since his second year.
Mm-hmm. And he's been bad on defense this year. Really bad.
Yeah, he's just not moving great, not shooting great. Maybe that'll come around. He's getting fouled more, which is good. But he's not shooting very well. 33%, I think. So, yeah, but it just starts and ends with that dude. He's just, I didn't appreciate Jordan as much as I needed to because I was busy doing a lot of other things when he played, and my own team. People should be appreciating watching this guy play. He's just extraordinary.
No,
he's really an artist.
You look, the Nuggets, you're probably never going to have a player that's good in your franchise history ever again, right?
I
I'd
would
just say it's
1%
highly unlikely.
1% chance.
Right.
Correct. It's like being able to watch Mozart in his prime.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he is
just no one like him.
He is brilliant. And again, rising tide lifting all ships. Like, he is elevating those players around him. And it made me think of something, David, that you said, and I was thinking about this all weekend about player development. And I'm paraphrasing you, but you're basically like, look, if you as a young player cannot play with elite talent, well, then I know you can't play with shit talent, right? Because great players make you better. So if you can't play with these guys, I mean, well, what do we have going on here? That makes me think about, again, Malone, you have the best player in the world on your, put those other dudes in and let's see what they can do. Like, he's going to make them better just because he's so good.
He's doing that a little bit. And again, Brown is more than serviceable. In fact, if you look at cleaning the glass, I mean, he's like top 5 in the league right now in differential. The other ones are bigger names. Of course, it's Jokic that's creating it, but still, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the West is open, because of all the things going on. Mm-hmm. So, if I was a betting man right now, I would lean towards Denver just because they have the best player in every game they play. I don't have to make the decision. I'm not a betting man,
right?
But he's the biggest problem solver of all. We always say that he's the biggest problem solver of all, and the tallest.
That was makes him unfair, right? And he's also taller than you, so it's like, well, great. Another tall man, David, that we have high hopes on, Victor Wembanyama. Let's say an uneven start to his second year in the league. He has cut a couple good games. I think last night he had 6 threes and 7 blocks, or something crazy like that.
Correct.
I mean, that's going to happen almost once a week just because he's a freak of nature physically. Like, he's just going to do stuff like that. But the consistency is not there yet. And look, to be fair, that is the hardest part about this league, right? Is to be consistently a good player. That's why they're all-stars and superstars and one-of-ones. Like, it takes a while to get up that curve, but he's not. The start hasn't been what we thought it would be. What are you seeing when you watch Wemby so far through 10 games, 11 games?
So, how many field goals, 2-point field goals, do you think AD makes the game? Not makes. 9? Close, 10. Yeah. Now guess Wemby.
4?
Yeah. You know who else is 4 a game? Jamal Murray.
Not good.
He's a foot shorter and hobbled.
Not good.
Yeah. So to me, Wemby is just living on the perimeter. He seems surprised when told first time he ever made 6 in a game. Yeah, buddy, you've never done it before. And I'm fine with him shooting those.
Right.
But I just watched all of his baskets last game, all of his shots, not baskets. He's just not really interested in playing in the paint. And that's going to significantly limit what he can do for a team. He needs to grow up, assert himself more, and not try to be KD. Same and Chet both think they can be KD, and I just don't see it.
Is that a them problem or a coaching problem?
It's both.
Okay.
But you probably can't coach Wemby. You probably can't really sit his ass down if he just won't engage in the paint, whatever, because you'll get fired. Certainly now because Pop's not even coaching.
Oh, yeah.
And they never come back, as far as we know. We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you probably can't really coach him up. I've heard he's a great kid and all of that, but it's disappointing. I don't really like watching him play right now because he just wants to be Kyle Korver as a shot blocker.
Right.
So Kyle Korver, the shot blocker, is a nice player. He's not the MVP of the league. He's not the best player in the world.
Right. And you talked about when he first came in the league. And, look, I'm very fortunate in that I do this podcast with David. And all the smart things that I say, maybe not all, 99% of the smart things I say, I crib from David. And I'm not ashamed to admit that because he knows a lot about basketball.
And not much else.
But you said this about him before he got to the league. This is what I would work on, and these are things I would do to make yourself like, because he's got all the tools in terms of size, whatever. We work our way up to maybe one day we do the KD stuff. Maybe. You won't even guarantee that. You said maybe we'll do that, but let's take advantage of these things. And he just hasn't done them. But for our audience, let's go through some of the things you think he could be doing to easily take advantage of being 7'4".
Well, I said it a year ago, more than a year ago, when he first was in the draft. I would have turned him into a Duncan Robinson as a shooter, but also a pick and roll player, not just pick and pop.
Right.
So pick and roll, let him get buckets in the paint, let him get fouled more. I think he takes 3 or 4 free throws a game. I could be
Terrible
wrong
for someone that big.
I could be wrong though. It could be more. I have a lot of numbers in my head right now. He's not asserting himself nearly as much in transition. Get down there, fight for space in there. Chet does a little more KD than I wish he would. However, and he's missing them. He's missing a lot of those shots.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming for Chet. I can see it coming.
You can see it. Yep.
He's getting closer to being able to, and he's not KD,
right?
But they're normally going to the rim kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm seeing from Wemby. He's just so huge.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, listen, he couldn't go by. He made a nice 3 over Kyle Filipowski.
Oh, wow.
No fleet of foot guy.
Right.
But he shot the 3 and he made it, but he couldn't go by him. He tried to go by him off the dribble, and he couldn't. Like, come on. Like, and he couldn't go by any of those guys. He tried last night against Utah, and they lost. I'd like to see him get a much better mixture of paint shots and rim shots where he's sealing someone, he's rolling and sealing, he's racing and sealing. A post up, he made a nice move in the game yesterday where he kind of got a post up and scored a lot. I'd like to see a lot more at the nail and be demanding of being right at the nail, not a foot and a half out of it. Or at the elbow, same thing. Not 17 feet, but 14 and a half, 15 feet. And if I was Chris Paul, I'm not throwing the ball until you get one step closer to the paint, whatever. It's a mindset. I think he'll probably get there because everyone has to learn how to value space on the court. It's not something that happens normally easily. It's just that hasn't happened for him yet.
3.6 free throw attempts per game.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, no surprise. And he's really hard to guard down there. He just doesn't go down there very much. So he doesn't want to be hit, I don't think. And so that's got to change.
Yeah. We got to work on that part of that game, right? Like embracing the physicality of it, and listen, and fouling out the other team's front line. Like you can do that. It's a huge win for you and your team.
And shrinking the court for your teammates when 2 or 3 conversion, you throw it back out.
Exactly. But that's not even like subtle nuances, right? That's just the game. But something you hope as you get more experience, you will just learn over time. I'm making the game too hard for myself right now. Why?
Right.
It can be so much easier. So we'll see if Wemby picks that up. All right, folks. We will see you later in the week. Enjoy the basketball. Take care.